Lucha Libre AAA TripleMania is one of the biggest shows of the year. Available via FITE TV on Saturday, July 15th is TripleMania 31. Plenty of talent and action on the card, including the outstanding Viva van. Thank you, Viva, for taking the time. And just right off the bat, I just want to know, tell us about your name, your pro wrestling name, and how you came up with it.
So my pro wrestling name, I came up with it. It was originally Via Van. So it was VI. I got the VI from the beginning of my actual name, Victoria, and YA at the end of it. So it was Via, and Van is my Vietnamese name. So one day in training, I told people that my wrestling name is Via Van, but people kept chanting Viva, Viva. And I was like, you know what? I actually like that, and it has a ring to it. So I stuck with it ever since.
The people have spoken. You go with the people. You learned well, Viva.
There you go.
So, hey, TripleMania, this is huge in Tijuana, Mexico. Now it's you teaming with NWA champ Kamille and also Natalia Markova. And I just want you to talk about teaming with them and then tell us also about your opponents for this big match.
Well, the Kamille, she's been killing it at NWA. She's been the women's champion for, I think, over 700 days. So that's definitely someone who I would want on my team. And as a belt collector myself, and Natalia, she's also been collecting a lot of belts and killing it in the indies. And now she's at NWA. So I think I have a very good team with me for TripleMania. And I've faced Lady Shani many times, Sexy Star many times. And Dalys is my first time wrestling against her. But, you know, I'm confident in my team, and we're going to represent the rest of the world.
And in that team of opposition, Sexy Star has done so much in her career. Mm-hmm. What do you learn from pro wrestlers like that? Because you're still at the early stages of your journey, your career. Am I correct at that?
Yeah.
So what things have you learned or taken from someone like Sexy Star and some of the others that you've been in the ring with?
Well, what I can learn is from them, I know their movesets. I've taken them so many times. At this point, I think I know what my best bet is to counter it the next time I face them again. So every time I face them, I up my game, or I bring something new to the table each time. So it's just to always keep everyone on their toes. And I believe they do the same with me. They also grow and they change over the years as well, the many times that I've wrestled them. But being with like great competitors like that, you just keep growing over and over again.
What was it like for you when you first got started, and what made you decide, okay, pro wrestling, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to try.
I've been a huge fan of professional wrestling since I was a kid. So it was always a secret dream of mine. But it wasn't until college was when I was majoring in accounting at the time, and I was miserable. And I told myself, you know what, I'm so unhappy, and this is a secret dream of mine that I just want to pursue. I'm still going to go through a college and finish it, but I'm also going to chase this too.
Yeah, what was that like too? Because right at one point you're sitting in class going over numbers, and now you're like in the ring, fans are cheering, booing, going crazy, and now it's I mean, talk about the 180 turn.
It's a huge difference. It's a huge difference. It's being in class, I feel like it's more calm, quiet. You have to be focused. But like in wrestling training, it's a whole nother level. And when people talk about in-ring cardio, they really mean it when they say in-ring cardio is completely different from any other type of cardio that you've ever done in your life. So you can be a track star, you can try to run as much as you want, prepare yourself, but nothing will ever prepare you for wrestling training until you actually just do it.
And speaking of that wrestling training, was it Rikishi and out in California that you got your wrestling training, and from any others that you got your training from as well?
Yes, Rikishi's one of them, but the person that taught me Lucha Libre is Los Luchas.
Tell us just what was that like, getting that training, that experience, and just, I mean, even those first few times in there, because I've interviewed many pro wrestlers, and if you don't know about it, I mean, just how the physical it gets. And you mentioned the cardio, bouncing off the ropes, getting slammed and doing things like that. I mean, it does take a toll on your body. What was it like for you those first few times? And did you ever think, hey, maybe this isn't for me? Or you just went after it and said, no, I like this?
Well, I did think to myself, this is really hard. This is very hard on the body. There were certain times where I felt so out of breath that I felt like I couldn't continue. But I was like, I really want to do this. I'm going to push it through. I am hell-bent for a reason. So, so I pushed it through. And every time I would step in the ring, it was like all my worries, all my thoughts that I would think about, all my problems in my everyday life would be gone. And that's how I knew that this is what I love doing, because every time I would step in the ring, it was just what was in the ring and my opponent only.
Did you go to any live shows as a young fan? Who were some of your favorites? And was this in the Los Angeles area?
I didn't. I did grow up watching WWE though, but I got into wrestling through a video game instead. My dad had bought me the first PlayStation console, and he got me the WrestleMania arcade game with it. So I was playing this game for 2 years, and it wasn't until 2 years later was when my friend was telling me, you can watch this every Thursday nights. You know that, right? When WWE used to have SmackDowns on Thursday nights. And that's when I was like so mind blown by it, because I thought these were just video game characters. I didn't know that they were real wrestlers, real people.
And so hopefully one day we'll see you. Did you make yourself as a video game pro wrestler yet? Did you make yourself as a playable character yet? Or still waiting for that day that let the company do that?
I have fans tagging me all the time that they've created me in like the WWE game. So I'm very honored by that. Hopefully one day, you know, a company will make one for me. But as of now, I have a lot of supporters out there that have already made some of me.
Hey, now TripleMania, this is an incredible show, and it's always a stacked lineup. And I'm just curious from your standpoint, obviously you have your big match. Anything come to mind of any other matches for you on this show that you might be very much interested in seeing? There's just an incredible array of talent.
I'm interested in the whole show. I think we have a very stacked card. But Vikingo and Kenny Omega, I'm not gonna lie, I think that's the one I'm looking forward to the most besides my own match.
It's such a different style too of wrestling when you think of Lucha Libre. And I'm wondering for you, what was it like getting involved in that style? And how does it translate that style of wrestling to other places or other groups, especially in America, that have their own wrestling shows in their style and adapting to all that?
Yeah, so I learned American style wrestling first, but I was only 3 months into wrestling when I got thrown into Lucha Libre class. So I learned it pretty much as soon as I first started wrestling. So it became very natural to me, and that's why I do a lot of Lucha Libre movesets, even when I work in the US, you know. So I guess like the good thing about it is that I can adapt to any style because I learned both American and Lucha Libre at the same time.
Growing up, were you athletic growing up? Did you play sports? Were you into theater? Were you drama? Were you into other things like that? Because pro wrestling is so much, it's not only sport, it's entertainment. And I'm just curious of your background growing up.
Yeah, I was in Kung Fu. I did basketball, soccer, softball. I was also in performing arts school. I tried to pursue a music career as well. So I did all of that.
So well, that's interesting. So then what made you decide first for the accounting? Because you mentioned the accounting, and I have to go back to that now. Hey, where did you go to college? And because you did finish then, which is a credit to you. And is that too something you put on the back burner as well? Like, okay, hopefully things will work out, but if not, I have my college degree in accounting to fall back on.
So I did finish college. I graduated Cal State Fullerton, but I switched my focus to marketing instead of accounting because I wanted to do something that I actually enjoyed. So I enjoy marketing. So that's something we have to do in wrestling too. We have to market ourselves a certain way so people can see and get ourselves out there. So that's something that I thought would be beneficial to both my personal and my professional life. And Yeah. And music, I think music helped me with stage presence. So when I come out, I present myself the way I do. And that's what I learned from the music industry.
What does your family think about this? First of all, I'm sure they're happy you graduated college, but it's always interesting to hear about the pro wrestling side of it, or anything other that.
My mom has always been supportive. She's always told me, you can do whatever you want, just make sure you finish college. And my dad, I wasn't really close to my dad growing up. I didn't really get to know him until I was in my early 20s is when I finally got to know him. And so it was a secret from him because I just didn't know how he would take it. So I held it from him for 2 years, and my brother actually told my dad that I was wrestling, and he showed him some clips of mine on YouTube. And so one day my dad just told me, hey, I saw your wrestling clips. You're actually really good. Like, keep it up. So I got his approval in the way that I didn't expect to get it, but I got it. But my family, they're very supportive. They're happy for me. And yes, they are very happy I graduated college.
You mentioned your brother. I mean, was he a wrestling fan too? And if he was, it must be super huge for him. He must want to go to all your shows.
So my brother, Bobby, he lives in the East Coast. I don't get to see him as often, but he is a huge wrestling fan growing up, and he loved John Cena. He was in that era. John Cena was his favorite.
Oh, that's so cool. Because I mean, it's so interesting, that dynamic of it too, because you think a lot about the individual person, but there's always a support system that's there. And that's interesting because family is a key element at times for that in any venture that is. So to see them like that, I'm curious, has your brother been to any of your wrestling shows though? Because he's on the East Coast.
He has. He's gone to some when he's out here on the West Coast visiting. And, sometimes I wrestle out there and he'll come out to support me as well. So he is supportive whenever we're on the same side of the coast. We always make sure to meet up with each other. So
your debut was in 2018?
Correct.
You've already accomplished quite a bit, young lady, for as long as you've been in this business. And I'm curious, how do you keep yourself grounded? And where are you at now compared to where you were at in 2018 as a performer, as a wrestler?
How I keep myself grounded is just always being able to have my family and my close friends. If I didn't have them, I think I'd go crazy. I learned to be able to turn off, when wrestling is wrestling, I focus on that. But when I'm not doing wrestling, I'm at home, you can relax, forget about that and just focus on what's important and what's in front of you and enjoy the moments. But what was your other question that you asked?
Yeah, your debut in 2018. I'm curious, from that point till now.
Yeah.
How have you grown?
A lot. A lot. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. If I could bring myself back to where I was at in 2018, I had no idea.
What do you enjoy most about what you're doing?
What I enjoy most is that I'm doing what I love, wrestling is everything to me. So when I'm out there and I get to do what I love and I get to do it well and I get to get my name out there, I get to travel the world because of it. That's exactly what I want, So I'm very happy with it.
I think also another credit to you is that you pursued marketing, and you did mention that. I mean, part of all what you all do, branding is such a big deal. And I'm just curious for you, how has the marketing background and also social media helped you evolve and grow?
Oh, it's helped a lot. There's a lot of tips that I've learned in college that I use to this very day for wrestling. So I believe that it helps a lot.
A few more questions. We'll get you out of here. I appreciate your time so much. There's a few things that I've looked up. I did some research and read, and I want you to back me up on this and tell me a little about it, because the first one I think is very cool. Pro Wrestling Illustrated had a series, Behind the Curtain. Am I going to the right place in 2020?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, tell me about this, because you talked about raising money to fund the construction of a wrestling ring for the first and only pro wrestling school in Vietnam. And it's Vietnam Pro Wrestling, which is formerly known as Saigon Pro Wrestling Club. And I'm just curious, your thoughts of doing that and whatever else you can add to that. That just sounds really cool, really incredible.
So when I got into the business, I realized like there weren't any Vietnamese wrestlers at all. So growing up, I had no Vietnamese wrestlers to look up to. There was no one like me, no Southeast Asian wrestlers. So I Googled it. And I was like, Vietnamese wrestlers, and I found VPW, and I found their documentary, and they were wrestling in I think it was a boxing ring at the time, but they presented themselves so well in this documentary that I thought they actually had like, a promotion. So I reached out to them and I said, hey, I would love it, love an opportunity to work your show one day if you guys would have me. And I sent over my stuff to them. And they're like, oh, we know who you are. We watched you on YouTube too. And we would love to have you. But the only problem is we don't have a wrestling ring. And that's when I was like, you know what? This is my calling. I was meant to reach out to them to help them. So we're like, you know what? Let's start this GoFundMe page and I'll help, push for you guys to raise money. And they're like, we don't know how to build a wrestling ring. So I found a blueprint online. I bought it. I sent it to them. They found a welder, and the welder said, well, if they've never made this before, but if they want to make it, it would be around like 4,000 USD. So I was like, you know what? And to Vietnamese dollars, that's a lot of money. That's like in the millions for Vietnamese dollars. So I was like, don't worry, you guys. I got you guys. I feel like this is something that I'm meant to do. So I'm going to post it online. And I had people like Sumi Sakai help me share it. Jeff Cobb helped me share it. So a lot of wrestlers in the American side like definitely came through and helped out, and we raised the funds and we built it. And now they're like having a show every month and they're doing so well. They pack out all their shows. I have yet to go wrestle there, which I will one day, but I'm so proud of them. And I'm so happy to be a part of that journey with them, even though I couldn't physically be there with them.
Not only does it make you proud, and that's a credit to you and all the other wrestlers that got involved, but now too, as a Vietnamese, how proud does it make you feel, and even being a role model to that degree?
It makes me feel really happy. It makes me feel like, I felt so alone when I started because I didn't have anyone that I can like relate to, or I didn't know what box I could fit into. But then I realized I didn't have to have a Vietnamese gimmick to be a Vietnamese wrestler. I am Vietnamese no matter what I do. And what I am is I'm a metalhead. So that's what I come out with, my leather jackets, my metal music, because that's who I am as a person. But like just being able to see, to be able to help other people and maybe open up more doors for people like us, because it's just so new out there, I think VPW has only been around for 6 or 7 years, maybe not even a decade yet. So it feels like we're making history, and hopefully one day people will see more people like us.
All right, we're almost done because you mentioned I wanted something here because you mentioned metal music. So I want to real quick, I'm going to wrap it up with that. But before that, favorite horror movies?
Favorite horror movies? The Exorcist is my all-time favorite. That was actually my very first horror movie.
The head spins around and all. And
I was terrified. I was 6 years old when I watched it, and I got hooked on horror movies ever since then. That is my first and my favorite one because it's the one that got me into it.
Will you be in a horror movie?
Will I be in a horror movie?
Yes.
I would love to.
All right, so now we're going to wrap this up. Lucha Libre AAA TripleMania. Lucha Libre AAA TripleMania 31. Saturday, July 15th. FITE TV. Viva Van's going to be on this huge card. Just so much talent. In the story, we're going to have a rundown of all the matches. But I find this also, you're such an eclectic person. You've done so much so far. And you have more to do. But I'm wondering, when you come out to the ring, will we be hearing any of your own music when you come out to the ring as your entrance music? And tell me about the band.
Well, my band that I was in was a death metal band, and it's not very popular. Like, people don't really like that genre. So no, I will not be coming out to my own music, but it was a very fun time in my life when I was in a band. And I do miss, doing death metal vocals from time to time, but maybe I'll do a few projects in the future. I don't know. But as of now, my entrance music is Loudness, Crazy Night. So I'm gonna stick to that.
Viva band, thank you so much. This is going to be a huge card, plenty of action. It'll be fun, exciting. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.